Hi,
Hello,
I'm Pant Squirrel.
and I'm the cybernetic pig, and this is the Godpunks. Warning: this show is not fit for human consumption. It may contain foul language, gratuitous violence, ugly sex, intergalactic drug use, and crippling existential dread. And orgies. There may be orgies. Children, please exit the building. This show is not for you.
Previously on Godpunks, a war over Hell began brewing between the leader of Hell, Lucy, and her estranged Teratoma sister, Dave. Lucy, in a bid to win the hearts and minds of the masses, launched a billboard campaign against Dave, while Dave considered a much more straightforward and murder-centric approach. Bob, a normal human, had nothing to do with any of this, but he did have a talent for being in any and all places at the very wrong time, thanks to an invisible tesseract in his apartment that has, unbeknownst to him, been infecting him with its unstable time slime for years. And if that wasn't bad enough, in order to save Earth from a solar flare, a hacker had to allow the computers that be to believe a healthy chunk of its inhabitants are suspicious actors. But that's the Godpunks universe for you. Everything is murdery, and nothing is fair.
In which Bob loses his job tasting dirt and gets another job working for a teratoma. If there was one thing Bob was sure of, it was that the soil samples would never stop coming. He'd come to the conclusion after over a decade of standing in front of the conveyor belt, tasting one sample after another as they plodded down the line. People needed soil. Moreover, people needed quality soil. How quality? Well, that depended on the soil, and Bob could tell the rich from the shit. A marketable skill. Bob had job security. It was very important to him. His soil tasting room is so bare and nondescript that when his thick, time-displacing tesseract snot gets agitated, and he leaps 100 years into the future for a few hours before getting sent back a couple of hundred years, he doesn't notice. Why would he? The samples keep coming, he tastes them and rates them accordingly. There is a therapeutic quality to soil tasting that Bob doesn't quite understand. He tries not to dwell on these sorts of things. What does it all mean? How do I know if this is real or just my imagination? How do I flourish? What are the salient characteristics of the human condition? These sorts of questions give him hives and fill his intestines with stinky, stinky gas. A very polite face pops up on the console and informs him that
You have been flagged.
the sour look on Bob's face says this is bullshit.
Flagged? The government has changed your status to suspicious actor. You have lost your clearance.
The sour look on Bob's face says this is bullshit.
Our soils are unique proprietary blends, Robert. We cannot just let anyone taste them. But do not worry. If you are innocent, which is to say, the government decides that you aren't as suspicious as they think you are, you will be required to come back to work within 22 seconds.
This is bad. Suspicious actors are non-people. His life was going to get very painful. On the way out of the building, Bob sees Hazmat Harry, so named because he's never been seen without his hazmat suit. "Where are you off to?" Hazmat Harry says.
I've been labeled a suspicious actor.
"Really? What do you think they're considering suspicious these days?" Harry says while he runs his hands up and down his hazmat suit, groaning a little in ecstasy.
If it were up to me, that. But clearly I'm no expert. Or maybe I am. This is very confusing.
"Oh," Hazmat Harry says, and it's unclear whether he's replying to Bob or still in the throes of his own sense of ecstasy. Bob exits the building and gets right up to the door of his car before he realizes his car will only start for non-suspicious actors.
Well, isn't this a fine fucking how do you do? Yup.
A voice says. Bob looks around and sees no one.
Up here.
The voice says. Bob looks up. He sees a skyline of monochromatic buildings. some of them levitating. Nothing new, except for the floating neon digital billboard. He'd only sort of noticed this billboard this morning. On the billboard is a picture of a teratoma. This teratoma looks like it had quite an adventure in the womb. He could only see a rough outline of a fetus through all the tufts of hair and random teeth in what can only be described as too many genitals.
That's right.
The voice says.
Right here. The billboard. I'm Dave. We need to talk. See if we can help each other out.
Bob sighs. He's not confident Dave can be trusted. Much of this lack of confidence has to do with the words on the billboard, right above the teratoma.
And a big hello there. Don't trust this face.
Bob reads.
Don't trust Dave. Dave is not to be trusted.
The last line on the billboard says.
Seriously, trusting Dave is the last thing you should be doing.
Don't worry about those words.
Dave, the teratoma on the billboard says.
They're stupid words. They don't know anything.
Bob's in quite a pickle. The billboard is saying not to listen to the billboard, but also the billboard is saying not to listen to the billboard. He's not sure who to believe.
I gotta say,
Bob says.
you're not a very effective billboard. I'm not a billboard.
Dave, the talking billboard that says it's not a billboard, says.
Not really.
The teratoma floats off the digital sign, suspending itself in the air above Bob, like a hot air balloon. But only the balloon is shaped like something that's clogging the bathroom sink after a 5-day bender.
I'm Dave.
The teratoma says.
Is that better?
Blood seeps from a tooth that's embedded in half a nose that's growing out of something that looks like it might be genitalia. Is it better? Bob doesn't know how to answer this question.
Here's the deal. What do you want? I can give it to you.
Great. Teratoma that grants wishes.
You know much about demons?
Dave says through no discernible mouth, though the teratoma does wobble a bit whenever it speaks.
Like, what do you mean? For or against them?
Bob doesn't know. He doesn't think about demons. He thinks on it.
It depends.
He finally says.
Can they give me my job back?
Dave floats down towards Bob, shrinking to about beach ball size and stopping right in front of his face.
Bob.
The teratoma pauses.
Friend.
Dave's many sets of genitals wiggle when she talks.
Do you mind if I call you friend?
Bob isn't sure.
I'm not sure.
He says.
It's okay, buddy. You take your time.
Dave's tufts of hair grow out, turn gray, fall off, and then grow out again.
You don't need a demon to get you your job back, buddy.
Dave says.
You'll get it back yesterday. Yesterday? Yeah. You'll wake up tomorrow and it'll be yesterday. Or the day before, or whatever. And you'll have your job back. No biggie. Might not last, but we've got bigger problems, you and me. So who cares?
Bob definitely cares. Dave's many randomly placed teeth move when she talks, though she has nothing approximating a mouth, at least not all in one place.
This is Jane, by the way.
Bob looks to his left. Jane is wearing a suit. Her arms hang down past her knees and end in taloned fingertips, which are dripping with blood. Jane's head is a stag's head, with several rows of jagged sharp teeth and a set of prodigious antlers that make her look even taller than her already tall frame would suggest. Jane's snout is also soaked with blood, and Bob sees a human finger stuck between her teeth. The finger still has a ring on it. "Hi," Jane says in a giddy, sprightly way that Bob wouldn't expect from a monster that eats people. "It's such a delight to meet you."
Jane's my creative consultant.
Dave explains.
She's a Wendigo. Don't worry, she won't eat you. She's on a diet.
Jane bursts out laughing at the mention of the word diet. A few feet behind Jane is a mauled corpse. that Bob thinks might be his former supervisor. "But seriously," Jane says, "I won't eat you." Jane smooths out the caresses in her suit with the bloody talon as she says this. This is unsettling. Bob is unsettled.
I gotta say,
Bob says.
I don't feel very good right now. Well, when I don't feel very good, I fuck.
Dave says.
But that's not why I'm here. Unless you want to. Do you want to fuck?
Bob slowly says what he always says when he wants to say no.
Maybe later? Fantastic,
Dave says. She begins to vibrate. More and more her wiggling and jiggling gets jerky and violent.
Here's the deal. You have a great relationship with time. I would like to use that, you know? Really stick it to the man. In this case, the man is my sister, Lucy. She sucks. She runs hell. Isn't very fun. Fuck her, right? You know, really stick it to the man.
The Johnson and Daughters Attorney at Law building explodes behind Dave, and then she stops vibrating.
Jane,
Dave says.
This is where I think we should put our, what do you call it?
Layer?
No.
Base of operations?
No.
Headquarters? Dave begins vibrating a lot.
Yeah.
She says.
Headquarters.
Alrighty. Jane puts her talent hands in front of her face, making a square with a thumb and forefinger, trying to picture how the new headquarters will look before taking a tablet out of her pocket and making a few notes. I'll draw something up.
I want it to have energy. Like vibrant energy.
Of course. Jane smiles a big toothy grin. It's going to be fabulous.
You know,
Bob says.
This is really a lot to take in. Sure it is. I know, buddy. I really do. One day, you're counting your genitals, and the next you're like, I think I should rule hell. I mean, it's crazy, right? Yes?
Bob says, slowly, not understanding a word. Dave stops vibrating. When she stops, a hoverplane falls out of the sky and crashes into the rubble of the building. A large ball of fire leaps out of the wreckage, and shrapnel soars out into the street, tearing several passing cars to shreds. Surveillance drone, Jane offers in the way of an explanation.
You think about it, Bob. Oh, this is just wonderful. We're gonna be a team. Just be like, hey, Dave, it's team time. That's it. But only if you want to. Also, fucking if you want to. So great! Jane's gonna hang out with you while you think it over. Just make sure you tell her who not to eat. She's good that way.
Bob looks over to Jane, who nods and then vomits a great deal of blood onto the pavement. She looks up at Bob when she's done and laughs like a drunk hyena who's just huffed air duster. We are going to have so much fun, Jane says, putting her bloody talons on Bob's shoulder. Her grip is surprisingly gentle.
But
Dave says to Bob,
if you could try to get back to me sometime yesterday, that'd be great.
Dave disappears. Another surveillance drone falls out of the sky and crashes into the exact same place the last one did. The heat from the resulting fireball burns the inside of Bob's nostrils. So much fun, Jane says.
Say it one more time. One more time.